welcome to No Instructions. I'm Bob.
And I'm Josh.
And we're back.
This is like 5 in a row?
I have no idea.
A bunch is in a row.
I've lost track.
It's that many. It's been so many in a row that we've lost track. So
I mean, is it to a point now where we just can't talk about how many we've had? Like, is it now the normal?
probably.
Yeah.
Maybe I should not do that anymore.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I still say like we're back every episode because
I imagine that people would listen to the show, and then they would go to a snack, and they'd listen to the next show. And then when you say, we're back, they're like, I'm back too.
So maybe next time I'll be like, how was your snack?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'll do that. Let's start over. Hey, I'm Bob, and I'm just kidding. No instructions. Wrong intro. I have too many intros. Anyway, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, man. How are you?
I am doing all right.
There it is.
It is, for me, it is busy family season right now.
Family season?
Yeah.
Like you have your kids for a certain amount of time?
No, I mean, like
you give them
my
back?
entire family is very busy right now. My wife is assistant coach on 2 soccer teams. And, no, that's not right. 3 soccer teams.
Of course she is.
Yes. And so she is constantly taking somebody to a practice, and then all the practices overlap or butt right up against each other on the schedule. So she takes one, and then I have to leave work and go pick up everybody else and then take them to switch a kid at practice, and she just stays there for like 4 hours at a time or whatever. And he moves from field to field. And games have started, so now we have games, a couple of games on the weekend, a game on the weeknight usually, sometime during the week. And this past weekend, all the games got canceled because it had been raining and the fields were just like puddles. So they rescheduled the games from the weekend to the weeknights. So last night we had a game. Tonight we have 2 games.
Because the field
Tomorrow
is...
night we have a game.
Because the field is muddy?
Well, past the point of just like being a wet, muddy field. On Saturday, they actually thought that it might be dangerous for the kids because the big pools of water, the really sloppy part, was right in front of the goals. I don't know why. I guess that's just where the ground gets pushed down more. And
That seems like that would be so much more fun.
Well, they
for the
were
kid to
worried
play.
about that's where everybody comes in pretty hot. And so they were worried that,
Slip and slide soccer.
yeah, it might get dangerous down there, which could be fun. And,
I think
and
it could be fun.
all
There's
the coaches,
there's
all
an
the kids-
intramural sport in there somewhere.
Mud soccer. Everybody except for the refs were like, yes, we're fine. It's water. No big deal. It's mud. We'll be careful. But, I mean, the refs, their job is to make sure that everybody's safe, and they're also take care of the fields and stuff like that. So they ended up canceling all the games. Well, all of our games. There's a lot of fields, so other people got to play. But that pushed those games to this week. And so we've got like 3 or 4 games in the weeknights of this week, and then we have 3 this weekend that we already had scheduled. So it's just between that and practices and getting everybody to all the things, and it's a lot. And it's a lot of me just having to get people to the things. Jenny is coaching, and so she's has to be at all the practices, all the games, obviously. And so it's just a matter of me getting somebody from one place and getting them to the other place on time, and making sure that everybody has their cleats and all their water bottles and all the stuff before we leave the house, and fast food. So last night...
Oh, yeah.
Yuck. Last night, we had to drop off my daughter before her game. I picked up all the boys, and then we went to get some food so we could go back and watch the game. And near the fields, there's Taco Bell. Taco Bell is kind of a universally accepted fast food in our family. Everybody is fine with it. It's not everybody's favorite, but it's fine. So I'm thinking we'll just go grab some Taco Bell. Well, right next to Taco Bell, there's a Burger King and a McDonald's. The kids know that McDonald's is not very good. Sorry if that offends you, but
It doesn't offend
not
me.
you. People
okay.
listening.
I'll speak for them. They're fine.
They don't know that Burger King is also not very good. One of my kids had Burger King one time at some birthday party or something. He's like, "Oh, the burgers are so good. The Whopper's awesome." I'm like, "Guys, come on." So they convinced me. They all agree. All the boys agree that they want to go to Burger King. I'm like, "Well, all right." So we go to Burger King drive-thru. They all get burgers, and I do not want a Burger King burger. I had beef for lunch too, so I was like, I should get chicken or something. So they have this chicken. It's called a chicken. It's like...
Yep. I've had one of these sandwiches.
Okay.
Okay.
What was the sauce? This was a spicy chicken.
I got the spicy one
Oh, yeah.
one time. Like last time I remembered that Burger King existed as an institution.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be over there. I'm like, well, whatever. I need something quick and relatively cheap. And then I saw this like nice looking, like you see on a commercial,
Yeah.
like fancied up. I mean, it's a fast food menu, so it's not what it's going to look like in real life. But it looked like a Nashville hot whatever kind of chicken sandwich. And I'm like, all right, well, that sounds somewhat appealing.
And most of the other stores have a spicy chicken sandwich now. It's like a breaded, spicy.
But I went
chicken
into it
sandwich.
knowing that I'm going to try to get a spicy fried chicken sandwich from Burger King. All of those things, like,
They're screaming no.
you're signing a contract with diarrhea. And you just walked into it. I walked into it willfully.
Yeah.
But what was your experience with that sandwich?
I'm curious what the sauce was. There was a sauce on this that I was hoping maybe you knew since you've had the sandwich.
It was advertised as like a spicy, like Nashville hot, whatever.
Well,
something.
so this one was like the spicy was in the breading. It was like the Chick-fil-A spicy chicken sandwich, where it's like the breading is the spicy part. This had like a red oil and like a mayonnaise that wasn't mayonnaise. It's almost like a hollandaise sauce or something. But so this thing comes in a bag. It's all wrapped in paper. And so I pull it out of the bag, and this paper wrapping just has like white goo squished all over the inside of the paper. And I'm looking at it. I don't even see the sandwich yet. I just see this like explosion of white sauce. I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. So then I had to unwrap it from the paper. I'm at the soccer field, sitting in a camping chair, surrounded by strangers. And I pull out this wad of chicken sandwich covered in gross stuff. And I was like, well, I have to eat this, beard and all. Like, I have no choice. This is my food. So I'm, we got a pile of napkins, and I just kind of went for it. And I still don't know what the sauce was. I don't get the flavor. I didn't okay, now I know what it is. It wasn't mayonnaise. It wasn't sour cream. It wasn't like all of the white sauces that I could think of. And it didn't make me sick, which is good. I didn't feel terrible afterward, but I definitely got to the end of the sandwich just like, I don't ever want to have that again for the rest of my life. And it was funny overhearing my boys go, they get about halfway through the burgers and they're like, yeah, I mean, it's not really that good. Like, told you. I told you.
See, I guess throwing back to the episode we talked about, the Back to the Future toys at Burger King, like the BK Kids Club back in the 90s, right? They had like the kid in the wheelchair and the Shaggy Dog and the guy who kind of like looked like Cyclops and Captain Planet's like love child. They had like a couple characters. And Burger King, I remember thinking, was my preferred fast food burger of choice.
Okay.
Because McDonald's, I remember we didn't eat there very much, and when you did, I really, really disliked it. It tasted really sweet, and it had a little onion bit things in it. It was really gross. So I never liked McDonald's. Wendy's was okay, I guess. But I remember the Whopper being like, in my town, if you were going to go get a fast food burger, I would prefer to go there. Then they opened a Whataburger, and Whataburger's pretty delicious.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other day, I don't remember what spurred it, but I was like, oh yeah, Burger King is around here. Let's try that because maybe it's the same as it has always been. And they had that chicken sandwich thing, and I'm like, well, whatever. Let's try something new. And my experience with that chicken sandwich was that it was fantastic.
Really?
I opened it up. It looked like the picture on the menu. The first time this has ever happened. And I remember being astounded. Like, I brought it back here, and I opened it up, and I like stared at it. I'm like, how do they do that? How did they make the food that they gave me look like the food that they advertised to me? Those two things have never happened. And I remember it had the whatever, oily, whatever stuff in it because it was like a Nashville, whatever sandwich. I remember it being pretty good and it being pretty balanced. So much so that it was like on the receipt, they're like, go fill out a survey. And I'm never filling out a survey. I actually filled out the survey.
Really?
And I remember writing in there, I went, holy crap, Burger King, how did you do that?
That's going to be on a commercial. You know that.
I hope so.
Guys, we got a good one. Call marketing.
And so I don't remember how the diarrhea situation went afterward. But I remember going like, I don't need to do that again. Yeah. But I was mostly astounded with like, you advertised a thing to me and then you actually gave me that thing.
So what I'm really curious about now is which one of our sandwiches was the anomaly.
I think yours might have been just because, an anomaly. being a departure from expectations or an
Yes.
established norm.
Yeah.
The established norm being that the food you receive from a fast food place looks like it fell underneath like a trucker's seat, and then they handed it to you.
Right.
So mine would be an anomaly is that they presented what they advertised, which never happens, and it actually tasted halfway decent, to where yours is about what people should expect from a fast food place, that you get a mushed up sandwich covered with sloppy mayonnaise goo.
So I don't know which one is the normal.
I don't know.
there.
That's a weird Schrodinger sandwich type situation.
And I'm definitely not going to go find out.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't care enough about which one of those is normal to go get it again.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really like fast food very much, but I mean, sometimes when you're just,
Yeah.
that's just what you have available.
Yeah.
But
Something about Taco Bell is a bit different, and I don't know why.
different
I don't
in
know
your
why.
expectation or the delivery?
The delivery.
Okay.
It's like I feel like, and I know I get a very limited grouping of things on. Ooh, we should talk about that. I get a limited grouping of things on the Taco Bell menu, so I don't have like. I'm not speaking for everything on the menu here. I'm only speaking for the crunchy taco supremes
Okay.
and the chicken quesadillas. That's pretty much what I
But
get
not
these
the
days.
taco, or not the, was it Mexican pizza anymore?
That's what I wanted to bring
Okay.
up.
You just do it.
Okay. So back to the thing. The tacos, every time I eat a crunchy taco supreme, every single time, I bite into it and I'm like, that's like refreshing. And I think it's because in a warm, good thing, there's cold sour cream and cold lettuce.
And their cheese is cold
That could be it
on
too. I
purpose.
hadn't thought about
I think
that.
they do that on purpose.
Okay. But I feel, instead of like hot, oily taco,
Yeah.
that I feel at a lot of places, because that's just like what a taco is at a lot
Yeah,
of
it's
places.
it's warm, savory food.
It feels refreshing. And I really like that. And so it's not necessarily that the flavor is like out of this world or anything like that, but it doesn't feel like a big, heavy, gross, oily thing. It feels like a pretty balanced thing to eat. Versus if you go to McDonald's, Burger King, any other place like that, Wendy's, it feels like I'm just setting myself up for something really heavy that I'm not
Yeah.
going to enjoy in about an hour.
It's your
It's gonna
hot,
feel
like humid,
Yeah, yeah.
like beef salt.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's what makes it stand out in my mind as a different thing. It's probably not actually,
I think next time that you guys make tacos at your house, you should put the cheese and the stuff like in the freezer right before you start to serve it, and see if you get that same sensation.
Yeah, might. I
'Cause
mean,
that was what
all
we
that
were
stuff is
watching.
cold for us too, but it's not like in the freezer cold. So
Yeah,
maybe that
I think
is-
they purposely they make it cold. Because I was watching some cooking show on YouTube, Josh Weissman or somebody else, and he was doing a thing with Taco Bell, and he was kind of ragging on them because like, oh, and their cheese is cold and their whatever is cold. He's like, that's weird, but okay, I wouldn't do it that way. And I think it adds to the experience.
Interesting.
And I think it's a smart move because, like you're saying, it's just like instead of hot salt beef between bread, it's hot salt beef, on flat bread.
Right.
So if you're going to Taco Bell,
Yes.
what are you ordering? What's your order?
That's it.
What are you getting to drink?
I get a number one, which is 3 crunchy taco supremes, beef, and a
Okay.
chicken quesadilla, slightly spicy. But it is.
It
slightly
is?
spicy.
Oh, you
Yeah,
don't
It
get
has
it
a
slightly
sauce.
spicy?
No,
Okay.
it has a sauce that's spicy. And I get a strawberry lemonade. Well, it used to be pink lemonade, excuse me, but now they are moving it to strawberry lemonade, which is actually a lot better. I used to always get a Mexican pizza.
Yeah, because whenever you and I would go out for lunch,
Right.
like you get the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing, but you always got a Mexican pizza. And I remember them going away, and I went, ooh, Bob's going to be sad.
They're coming back.
Did you write your congressman?
I did not. Somebody did. The Taco Bell congressman. They're coming back. I saw that they finally are putting them back on the menu
They're listening to the
because
people.
there was a big, fans of Taco Bell or whatever wrote a big appeal to the company and convinced them to bring it back. And then the article that I was reading led on to why they do their menu the way that they do it, why they add these limited time things for scarcity and all this stuff, where other McDonald's will have the McRib for a month or two a year, but they don't do it with everything.
Right.
They just have a couple of
There's
things
like the
that are,
shake.
the Shamrock Shake.
Okay.
But Taco Bell's whole intent is to have just a couple of items that are always going to be there. and then everything else has the potential to disappear at pretty much any moment.
Put it in the vault.
Yeah, so they're building scarcity into their menu items, which is pretty smart. It
Because
also
they had,
probably
like,
helps with like, you know, supply chain stuff too, because at any point they can pivot away from like, oh, we can't get, you know, whatever, McLobsters anymore. I don't know. Wasn't that a thing up north?
Oh, like a lobster roll from McDonald's?
I think they had like a lobster sandwich. Not around here. I mean, I think it was a regional thing, but
When we were in...
so nasty.
Where were we? We were in Cape Cod somewhere? Or no, we were in Connecticut. And we stopped by this like famous lobster roll place that Casey and I always talked about because we were around there. And Anthony pulled it up. There is a McLobster, 100% Atlantic lobster.
There you go.
No, thank you. But they had a bunch of different types. There was one that had like a colder lobster kind of salad, and then like the hot one with like the butter all over it. And it's kind of like you're talking about. The hot one was not great. It tasted like lobster, but it wasn't refreshing. It felt very heavy and very like saturated.
Right.
Like you have a sponge inside your tummy, and it's just like it's at capacity. Not like it's food that it was enjoyable to eat.
Yeah.
And maybe that's my response to hot sandwiches, like we've talked about. It's that same thing. Like a sandwich to me is lighter and more refreshing. And when I get a hotter sandwich, it just tastes like that hot beef mush, salty mush in between bread. And so after church the other day, we didn't plan very well. And so we had to go out and like go get something to eat. And it was Easter Sunday. So there was no one open.
Yeah.
Except for Panera. My kids love Panera because they like Panera's mac and cheese. I hate Panera. I think Panera sucks. Panera was okay.
There goes that sponsorship.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too.
We don't need bacon turkey bravos here. But whatever. But I remember when I was in college, Panera was a thing, and they served like pastries and stuff. It was an actual bakery. And then they've tried to zhuzh up and make bougie sandwiches, but then you get like, it's a tiny little bit, and it's super expensive. And I was like, whatever. I don't want to hear people being upset, so let's just go to Panera. And every time I'm like, I'll find something I want to eat.
Oh, they still have the exact same things they had last time.
They changed stuff. And it's still gross. It's still gross, and I paid way too much money for gross food. And the one thing, pardon me, that I was remotely, I'm going to say excited is not the word, but I was like, oh, they have a strawberry lemonade. I like strawberry lemonade. It's usually a little too sweet, but I'm like, give me a strawberry lemonade. And we pull up to the thing after waiting forever, and the lady gives the frozen strawberry smoothie-looking dealie. And I'm like, I didn't want that. I wanted a strawberry lemonade like you advertise on the largest portion of the menu. The biggest picture were these 3 lemonades. She's like, we don't have that. That's not available here. I'm like, what's on the menu? She goes, no, it's not. And then closed the little door and walked off. And I was like, I hate Panera so much. But everybody else enjoyed their little tiny cup of mac and cheese that I've tried to recreate, and there's something my kids can sniff it out. Like they're like, it's not the same. I'm like, it's mac and cheese.
Because you're dripping your vitriol into the mac and cheese, and they can taste it.
But Sam's Club has the little things of Panera mac and cheese.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Turds. So now, like, I want to fool them and just make my own mac and cheese and put it in the little cup thing. Because we'll empty it out of the cups into like a pot, and then just usually for like bigger meals. And so I want them to see me do that. But I just want to fool them. I want to pour my own mac and cheese in it beforehand, stage it, have them walk by, and me make a loud noise so they see me pouring mac and cheese from the Panera container into a pot that I'm going to heat up, and then serve it to them just so I can get a satisfaction that I won.
I mean, that sounds reasonable enough.
Right?
And when they go, this doesn't taste the same, you can be like, well, I guess they must have changed the recipe.
Maybe we should just never eat at Panera again. They've let you down too many times, kids. Sorry.
Well, what else is going on?
What else is happening right now? I think we talked about the potential of us driving across the country to deliver this shadow box.
Oh, yeah. What's the word on that?
I think we're going to try to make a go with that.
Really?
Yeah.
Make it into like a actual vacation?
Like a little vacation.
See some other stuff?
See some stuff along the way. I think that's going to happen.
What would you see out west?
The trip will take us past Mount Rushmore.
Cool.
And it could also, depending on how much we want to divert, go by Yellowstone. But I don't want to do Yellowstone in a day. Like I want to get this thing there and I want to come home. Mm-hmm. But then the idea that we could like use it efficiently as a family trip is also appealing. But then I don't want to deviate too far off of that path because I want to get it and leave.
Right. That's kind of one of those things that you got to commit to what the point is, like ahead of time. Because if you try to, it's a trip to get there and back, then everything that's not that is going to feel like it's an inconvenience.
Right.
Or if it's a family trip and that's the point, oh, we're also going to drop this thing off at, halfway. It might make it a little bit easier to like enjoy those kind of side trips and those little things along the way.
And that's on me to realize
totally feel that same
that
thing.
Like I have it in my head, I'm going to go, I'm going to come back.
Yeah.
Like it's a day and a half trip. Like I will sleep in the Jeep at the safest looking truck stop, leave it on their front porch with a note, and then drive back home.
I'm not even telling them I'm coming.
Yeah. But I understand that like we haven't been on like a big family vacation to go see something new and cool, and we haven't adventured or traveled outside of just back and forth to where our family lives down in Florida. So I get the benefit of doing it. It's just outside of my initial statement of getting rid of this thing forever, ever, and then getting on with my life.
Yeah.
And so it's a good thing, but we have to block out time. We have to try to make an itinerary. We got to do the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. We've not really taken an actual vacation that wasn't to see family in a long time either. I mean, all of us. Like Jenny and I have gone over the past couple of years. We've gotten to go to England, and we went to Italy and stuff, and which was fantastic. I mean, the two of us being able to take a trip together just like that was awesome.
Yeah.
So worthwhile. But as a family, it's always like, well, if we're gonna make a trip, like you guys, we may as well go see family. It's, Jenny loves the beach, loves being in Florida, and so that along with just being able to see people she hasn't seen in a long time, it makes the most sense.
It's efficient. Like we have a place to stay.
Right.
It's economical and it's a destination. It fits all those things. But my kids are like, we always go to Florida. And I'm like, you are a very privileged and spoiled little child. But at the same time, I get that there is a whole lot more to see that is just as available to us as going down there. So,
but it's tough. I mean,
when would we ever get the chance to go do that unless we block out the time to make it happen?
You have to decide that's the point of that time is to go see something new, not to see family, which means that you then probably have to double up on time. You have to do the family thing as well, within a year's time or whatever. And that's kind of where we're at. We've talked about going out to Yellowstone. I've never seen most of the stuff between here and California.
There's a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
I've driven it a couple times, and the experience of seeing another part of our country that is dramatically different than the parts that we normally see is just kind of interesting. Like living in Europe, you would drive 7 hours from a beach, and then you would end up in the Alps. And so like that just geographical change puts you in a completely different mindset. Right. That it's just like it's still the same place. People still speak roughly the same language. I can still spend the same money, and I can get there whenever I want to. Like that's the beauty of living in the United States, or one of the beauties of living in the United States. But then knowing that like the destinations out there are much different than the destinations that I would choose myself. Like I'm a beach person. I want to go diving. So to take a vacation to go to Mount Rushmore or to go to Yellowstone, the activity availability is dramatically different than something that you may be accustomed to. So it's super cool. Yellowstone is one of the coolest places. Like it is an amazing preserve. You can go camping and then you can go see geysers and like crazy geological pools. And it's like stuff that's like so beautiful that just like exists that somebody stumbled upon. And luckily somebody decided that it shouldn't be commercialized, that it should just like be left alone.
Yeah.
And that's amazing that there are so many places in this country that are just left alone. Because in Europe, like, there's people everywhere. There are very few national parks that are big enough to just get lost in, or a place that, like, looks the same as it did thousands and thousands of years ago, without hotels and billboards and stuff surrounding the entrance. So I'm all about going, but, like, Yellowstone is one of those places that I don't want to make it a pit stop on an existing trip. Like, oh, well, hurry up and go there en route. Like, there's so much to do and see that I want to make it a dedicated trip, but like, I don't know when that would ever happen.
Well, what else? I mean, other than that, along the way, could you make that the majority of the trip, and then make a couple of other small day kind of, like Mount Rushmore? I would assume is not.
Mount Rushmore's not very much.
Right. It's like a short thing you could kind of go check out on the way to another thing, whereas you could focus on Yellowstone as the kind of meat.
Yeah, but yes, the answer is yes, but it takes a long time to drive out there, and so there's only I don't want to be gone forever because I still want to go down to the Florida and I want to go fishing and I want to go diving. And so to do all the things I want to do, again, this is completely a privileged conversation, but I want to go in the water because it makes me happy. I want to go out west because it's a necessity. And it could also be something fun. But in my mind, first and foremost, it's a delivery. I'm a parcel service.
Yeah, we need to decide on a place for us to go. I'm going to England next week. Oh, goodness. Is that next weekend?
Yeah.
How about that?
It's a good thing you remember.
Yeah. But I want to see the people that I'm going to see at Maker Central. I don't really want to take the trip. I want to be there. I don't want to go there. And the reason I don't want to go there is because I knew it wouldn't work. That sounds bad. Anybody listening that's going to be there, I'm glad you're going to be there, and I'm glad to see you. Don't hear it that way. But I was excited before about going on the trip because it was another time for Jenny and I to leave the kids here with grandparents and for us to go just do a thing together, just to go to a place, be a part of an event. Those events are so much easier with her because she's really good at getting me out of situations where I can't stop a conversation or making sure that I'm eating and making sure that, she takes care of me. And so, I mean, obviously the selfish part of me will miss that. I won't have somebody to help me out. But just going on a trip, stepping outside of our normal together is really good for us together. And so because she can't go on this one because of the season in life and coaching and the games and all this stuff, I was like, well, I think I'm just going to go for the weekend and come right back. And so I'm leaving on a Thursday, coming back on a Monday morning with 2 days of stuff in between. So
that's a lot.
It's in and out. And I'm not excited about that amount of travel for that amount of stay, And Jocko was like, you should, come to Italy. Even if she can't come, just come to Italy on the trip. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to go to Italy without Jenny. I don't want to go and be like, oh, you missed it. So it was beautiful. And I saw this thing and you weren't there. I don't want to do that. So we're just going to wait and do it in the future.
So my wife made the distinction the other day about a trip versus a vacation. And she said that it is a vacation when she and I go somewhere where it's just the two of us. And then it is a trip whenever we when we go as a family. And I'm like, well, I never really thought that the nomenclature would mean so much. But it's when you're traveling with the family, there's a lot that you have to do. You're the trip coordinator. So whereas we're going on a vacation, there's, I guess, the connotation of relaxation or rejuvenation or some kind of just personal health that I guess you can glean from it. To whereas a trip with the kids, it's good for us, but there's a lot more work versus benefit ratio.
Yeah. And that does change a little bit. I think, our kids are just different enough in age that we've stepped out of that part of life where where's the other one? We're like, where's the little one?
Yeah.
And so now we're at a point when we went to Florida this last summer, I guess it was last summer. It was kind of the first trip. We were staying in a condo with Jenny's family. They were in different rooms. We all had several rooms in this one place, and it was 3 buildings surrounding a courtyard with a pool, 2 pools or something, and a boardwalk that went out to the beach. So it's all right there. And it was the first time we've ever been anywhere that was not like somebody's house, out in a place where I was like, all right, kids, see ya. Go. I trust you enough to watch each other. If you want to go to the beach, we'll be down there in a few minutes. We're not going to leave you down there by yourselves all day or anything, but you can go, and I trust that you will all survive. And if there's a problem, you know how to find us, you know how to find family, you know how to find, whatever you need.
Yeah.
And that made a totally different kind of trip than just like, okay, does everybody have all their stuff? Like we're standing at
Where's
the door.
your cup? Where's your cup?
Yeah.
Where's your sippy cup?
It's a totally different thing. And I would assume that the older they get, the more, reasonable that will be to do. The flip side is, in a couple of years, we're going to go to Florida, and they're going to be like, I can't find my kids because they're hanging out with other kids that they met on the beach, and they're just like walking because I remember being that kid. I remember going on vacation at like 16 and meeting some random girl that I thought was cute on the beach and like, hey, I'm just going to go walk on the beach with so-and-so,
And then you have to do a downhill ski race to save the youth center.
Yeah. But so, I mean, it's gonna flip, in the other direction sooner than later for us, as far as like giving them freedom and then keeping an eye on them. But right now we're in that place where a trip is a little bit more comfortable because we're kind of out of that hard to manage younger kid stage. And you're getting
snacks.
Close.
Yeah,
to that,
we're still in the. You have to pack snacks because everybody's just going to want to have snacks.
Yeah.
They're not going to care about the majesty of what they're looking at. They just want to have a granola bar.
Yeah.
In somewhere that's not their house. Like, that's a vacation.
So we've got to plan something for this year, and I'm sure we will end up in Florida as well to see family and stuff. And that'll be good. I don't know where I would choose to go, though.
That was going to be my next question.
I'd love to go out west. I would also love to just go... Like, I would like to be out west. I know the drive is...
I think we're having a common theme here.
Well,
you want to exist in a place but not get to the place.
Well, I understand that part of driving through the western part of the United States is driving and looking out your window. And you pass by different types of stuff constantly. So I get that flying to a place, you're missing that, like my parents a few years back went, they have some family in, where is it? Somewhere, Wyoming. And so they took a 2 or 3 week road trip and they drove up north and they went through the Dakotas and they went across and they went down and met their family and then they drove them around for several days and they saw all sorts of stuff. And the point was that they spent all this time on the road and got to physically see things that they passed by that they never would have seen otherwise.
Yeah.
So I get that. And that sounds fun without kids because it's a lot of just moseying.
Yeah, you don't have to have an agenda.
Yeah, and that's hard to do with kids, no matter their age,
right?
Because they need to be kind of engaged and stuff. So I would like to do that at some point. Now, I would like for them to see Yellowstone or the Grand Canyon. I don't necessarily...
We're good. Keep going.
What was that?
I don't know. Anthony was playing on his phone.
I bumped the volume button on my phone.
So anyway, I would like for them to see those places, but I don't necessarily at this point want to spend all the time driving to those places.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not against it. That's probably what we'll end up doing, something like that.
Well,
But,
I mean, that was part of the apprehension from making this a family thing.
Yeah.
For that very reason, it is a day and some change to get out there. So I will drive that far, and then I'll pull over, take a nap, and get back in the car and go. Yeah. I don't have to worry about people needing to go to the bathroom or them being bored or them playing the Encanto soundtrack on the radio a whole bunch of times. I can just go and I can be done. It's utility. It is it means to an end. And then not that I don't want to do the trip with my family, but it just takes on a completely different level of preparation and expectation rather than me just being a courier to now being the event planner for my family.
Yeah.
And I'm not against it. It was part of our life to travel around the country so that our kids could see cool stuff. And it would be more beneficial to do that now than it would have been at the time when we were actually traveling. Because 2/3 of them were super young and don't remember any of it.
Yeah.
And so this is the time to go and explore and see things that they would have never gotten to see. And so part of that I'm really excited about. But they still are not at the age to where they can just be okay. They still need management. They still need expectations. They still need granola bars. And so it's almost there.
Yeah.
But I still want to do cool things with my kids because I love my kids. I just want my kids to be better traveling buddies.
Yeah.
And that's an expectation that is not fair to them.
Right. They're just kids.
But it'd be pretty dope.
It would be cool. I would like to, we've been camping, actually, we've never gone camping out anywhere. We've camped at our farm and we've camped in the backyard of my parents' house and stuff like that. So they've been in tents. They've slept in tents before, but We'd never like hiked in anywhere or even pulled in anywhere at
Yeah.
that campground. And it's something they all want to do. We've talked about it a million times. It's just one of those things we never planned for it. We just never do that. But I would really like to, specifically for Yellowstone, I would like to go and hike
Yep.
and like walk through it. I don't want to just drive through it. I would like to go explore. That's one of the things I enjoy most about nature. I know people love laying on the beach and relaxing and stuff. I like exploring.
Well, that's why I like going diving. Like
Yeah,
if
I
I'm
can
at
see
the
that.
beach, I want to do an activity while I'm at the beach.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. That sounds interesting to me, more interesting than just like being in the water. Not that I'm against the water, but like doing something.
Yep.
And so I would really like to find a place, whether it's out west or, you know, maybe it's just going to Tennessee or even other parts of Kentucky that are
There's
just beautiful.
whatever the place in central, eastern, whatever Kentucky. The
Red River Gorge?
yes,
It is-
we went camping there. It's super nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's awesome. When I was in high school, we went camping there one weekend and did a bunch of climbing and just, I loved it so much. And so really that's what I enjoy the most of. Like that is a vacation to me. It's physical work.
Yeah.
But like this morning, we had kind of a miscommunication about scheduling and stuff, and podcast got rearranged. And so I had some free time this morning. I went out to the farm and I worked on the car for about 20 minutes. And I still had some extra time, and I didn't want to start the next thing. And I'm like, I'm going to go walk in the woods.
Oh, cool.
And I just went for a walk in some trails that I've cut. And there was nothing out there. I didn't see anything new. But it was just really nice to just go walk in the woods and just kind of look around. I'm like looking for, you know, tracks of animals and, you know, oh, look, another tree fell down in this place. I guess at some point I'm going to have to come take care of that, you know, that kind of thing. But it was nice to just explore around. So I would like to do that with the kids.
There is a
And I'm going to have to force, even though they want to camp, they don't have a context for the work that it takes to hike or to camp.
yeah.
And so when we actually do that, I'm going to have to kind of drag them along until they get used to the idea. I know, I can already tell, like, you know, they can work hard with soccer practice physically, but when it comes to, we're just going to walk that direction for a long time. I know they're going to
Well,
be
with
like,
Red River,
"Wait a minute."
there's a lot of cool stuff to see at the ends of those hikes, like
Yeah,
having
true.
a designated
Yeah.
hike,
waterfalls, and
right?
Yeah,
Cool looking gorges. I mean, and even camping, car camping. I give the kids a task. Kid A, you're going to build a fire, or kid B, you're going to figure out how to cook something, or maybe this is just a fault of mine as a father. I want to turn everything into like a life lesson, but like being a
what a terrible
survival.
thing.
Well, no, like rather than just enjoying it.
right.
It's like you might have to go study and do a report on or whatever, and then your practical exercise will be at the location where you will exhibit, and you will be a go no go at fire making station. Like, no, man, just hang out and enjoy the fire. But like, little kids like fire, and so when you're camping, like have a couple of them research fire making techniques. And so like while we were at the house, we were talking about stuff that makes good fire starting material, and I'm like, all right, you go to the laundry room and go get a bunch of dryer lint. And they're like, why? I'm like, you're going to find out because it's cool. And you go get some Vaseline from, the bathroom. Well, why? You're going to find out because it's cool. And so I have all of this stuff, and maybe it's just like they get a little glimpse into the world that I lived in before they existed. But like I have packs that I would take out and do a lot of survival training with, and I'd pull out a bag of fire starting stuff I haven't used in ages and show them how fast you can make a fire. And that's not like, take this back home and make fires, kids. Ha ha ha. It's, we are camping. These are the conditions that you would need to make fire. But it's something cool they don't normally get to do.
Right.
And like putting up a tent is neat. And depending on where you're camping, like considerations when you're putting up a tent. And camping, I think, is really fun because it puts kids especially, and even adults, like so far out of their element. And how comfortable can you be when you don't have anything that you would normally have? And so having to make do, I think that part is really fun.
Yeah.
Go off in the woods and go get some sticks, but these are the kind of sticks you need to get. So now it's a scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
So my kids really liked it. And when we went to Red River, it was great. And so when my wife brought up Yellowstone, in my mind, it was an extension of that. Like, I want that at Yellowstone. I want to level up. I want a booster, right? I want to go my graduate level camping trip rather than, driving the 2 hours and you back into the spot and there's already the little grill next to the thing. Like, no, I want to go proper Yellowstone camping, so I don't want to make it like a side trip on the way to something.
But in relation to that, I mean, do you feel like your kids, their age and their interests are at a point where you could level up, or are they still at a place to where you kind of need to treat it as the same kind of drive-in?
Probably. We would probably need to do a couple more drive-ins. But
Yeah.
I think the level up of the holistic experience, not just of their merit badge earning, but like we could drive to Red River and like you might see a deer. You go through Yellowstone and you're going to get stopped on the road because there's a herd of buffalo.
Yeah.
And like that happened to us. And one like bumped into the Jeep and I got to check out the shocks on my Jeep because a stinking buffalo hit the side of it. And so like that experience, like that's core memory making.
Yeah.
So that mixed with camping, like that's the experience that I want out of going there. Not just to like, let's go drive to Old Faithful and watch water spurt out of the ground and like, ugh.
Yeah.
Or like, let's go to that like muddy, bubbly pit, which is cool to see, but you can't touch it. So don't touch it.
Yeah.
It looks neat, but don't touch it or you'll die. So I want to do more than I think we would afford for this particular trip.
Right.
But it's not that I don't want to do it. I just want to do it more.
Yeah. So I mean, do you think you would just end up breaking that up into, okay, well, we're gonna choose this part for this trip, and this next level or this next place we're gonna save, and we're gonna plan ahead for next year or 2 years or
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think academically, yes. But like, I mean, we work in such a small business that it's hard to be able to take off like 2 weeks to go do a thing.
Yeah.
And it's not that, oh, your job is so hard, you don't have vacation days. There's things that we are actively engaged in. And so it's not that like I don't have time to take a vacation. It's when mentally I can prepare to not think about the things I've got going on here.
Yeah.
And then it used to be to when you and Jenny would go on a vacation in the summertime. It was like, okay, let's all try to like two of us, and then eventually Anthony, the three of us. Let's try to coincide vacation so that we can all purposely like skip some weeks or skip a week or whatever. And so the Venn diagram of skills could kind of take a step back.
Yeah.
But if that's not happening, then one of those circles on the Venn diagram has to go, and which is great because we can pick up the slack, and that's not a thing. But it's just there's a part of me that I guess feels a little guilty because there's stuff that I am doing, and I want to make headway on those things. It's not like a job that I couldn't stand, like all of my other jobs actually, where I had 0 vacation days banked because I would take them as soon as I got them. And so now I can take a trip with my kids. I guess that's like self-affirmation right there. Like I can do that
Yeah.
thing. But then I have to like justify it to myself. I'm like, well, I've got that, I got this.
Well,
I got this.
okay. See, I was reminded by my wife this morning that I'll say me. She said we, but I'll say me because it was me. I am better for them when I have what I need.
Okay.
So I am a better husband, a better father, a more patient person when I make sure that I am getting the time I need to scratch my own itches. And this came up because I do Duolingo every night. So it's like 5 minutes or something. It's just like I pull out the app, do a little lesson in Italian. And it's part of the end of my day. I don't know how to fit it into the rest of my day. And so it's like I'm home, the kids are getting ready for bed, so theoretically they are off doing their thing that I shouldn't have to command anymore. Like they should be self-starting there. And so I just try to sit down and do the thing. Now, when you're speaking a different language into a phone that you don't know, and you are listening to a different language from a phone that you don't know,
Right.
you have to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
That's one
it's
of the
a lesson.
things. Right. And so I get interrupted a lot throughout the night when I'm just trying to do this little 5-minute thing. And I found out last night that I have not been very patient with that process. So I didn't realize that.
Like you get snappy when you're
Apparently,
interrupted? Okay,
yeah.
got it.
And I guess if I thought that would have been reasonable. So the point from this whole conversation that we had, was that that's one of the few things that is purely selfish in my life. That is, I mean, everything else is, I have a lot of things that I do for myself. I don't mean it that way, but that thing is not helping anybody in the world except me.
Right.
Because I just want to learn a new thing.
Right.
And so I want that. I need that little thing to grow. Piano practice is the same way for me. It's not helping anybody else. I'm not performing. It's just a thing that I like to do because it helps me move forward in something. And so if I don't get that time, or if that time is interrupted, then I get agitated, I get short-tempered, I get whatever, and I'm not as good for them at the end of their day, even though I'm looking at it at the end of my day. Like this is part of the wrap-up of my day.
Yep.
But I'm not helping them have a good end to their day because I'm frustrated with something that I could just wait on or do at a different time. All of that to say, I'm better for them when I take care of the things that I need for myself first, or make sure that those are taken care of. And I think that works the same with a business, especially a small business, and the people who work in that business. They are better for that business, better for the work that they do when they have time to not work and when they have time to take care of all the other parts of their life that are actually important.
Yeah.
Because jobs are not important. Jobs are the thing that make the rest of the life possible. They are not the thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So even though I get that tendency, because I have that tendency as well. Like, if I don't work, then nobody works. And so, like, me taking a vacation is very difficult. I mean, personally, but also from when I look at the business and things like that. But
for the record, you can go on vacation and things can still survive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that. But
I thought that was like a declaration that, like,
no,
when
no.
you work,
no, I'm telling
no
you,
one's here.
That's how I feel on the inside.
Gotcha.
And I think that can transfer very easily to anybody that works in any kind of small business.
Especially when you have buy-in. Like, you have a
Right.
personal investment in what is happening.
Yeah.
You want to see that thing through to fruition. And so any amount of time that you're not spent on it has to be justified.
Yeah.
And
which is hard to justify when it feels like it's
Yeah.
a selfish or a non-productive.
Someone's going to have to pick up the slack for me
Right.
is just a,
Yeah.
a case against it rather than a case for it.
Yeah.
When I think if we were, I'll deflect onto you and not to me. Let's say you were going to England for, like, you're going to go to Italy. Instead of going to England, you're like, you know what? I don't want to go to Maker Central. I just want to go on a trip. I want to use all this Italian.
You said it.
Guys, I'm going to go to Italy for a week. We don't. Okay. We will take care of stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
that's not an issue.
Yeah.
We would figure out what it was and we would continue on and we would all be pointed toward the same success, regardless if you were standing here to, like, steer the helm. And for some reason, I feel like I am not worthy of that same grace in some weird way that, like, no, I've got stuff I need to do. Bob can go take that time and I'll make sure that stuff is taken care of. But if I'm not here to make sure that all the stuff is taken care of, then who's going to do it?
Right.
And the answer is everybody else, dum-dum.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. It's difficult to internalize that thing, that it's okay for you to take time that you need to, you know, whether it's on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a yearly vacation or whatever the thing is. It's super hard to internalize that. But the fact of the matter is, you're better at your job when you take vacations. You're better at parenting when you're not a parent sometimes.
Right.
Meaning like that you have a day or
Yeah,
a night
you have
or
a little
whatever.
aside.
That's
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
You're a better husband, a better wife when you have time to make sure that you're doing your best away from that person so that you can be your best for that person. That's just the fact. It's just opposite of how we feel,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm terrible at it. Terrible at it.
I remember I had an English teacher that was probably my favorite teacher when I was in school. I came home to visit when I was in college when I was in the Army. And I was talking to her and I was like, I'm thinking about asking this girl to marry me. And she knew Tiffany because we were in the same grade. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do it. She's like, okay. She's like, she needs to learn how to be a woman before she can learn how to be a wife. And I was like, I think I get what you're saying, but I'm a dumb boy and I don't really know what you're saying, so I'm going to...
I mean, I understand, but why don't you just tell
I'm
everybody
going
else in the room
to
what you mean?
interpret what I think that means, because then it's more beneficial for me if I can justify it rather than me actually getting the meaning of what you're saying.
Right.
But it's that same thing. Like, as a couple, I cannot be a good parent if I'm not a good husband.
Right.
And if I cannot show my wife love and patience and fun and joy, I can't do those things to my kids, or I can't do them effectively, because then I'm not showing that same love and joy to their mother or their father or whatever that I'm showing to them. Like, it's a lopsided.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful that, like, my parents were amazing examples of the two of them getting along for the most part. I'm sure that they had their issues behind the scenes, but my parents loved each other. Like, that's what I knew. That was a norm, to where other people absolutely did not have that.
Yeah.
And so if there's any amount of privilege that I've had growing up, is that I'm blessed that I could see people that were in my life that demonstrated what love was to each other. And it's really easy for me to demonstrate love to the person that I actually want to hang out with and spend time with. And so it's not that I can sit my kids down and go, this is your block of instruction on how to be a proper spouse. Care about them. Buy them ice cream when they're down. Apparently don't buy them flowers like Megan over here. But, like, I can just show them by example, because it's really difficult to show a lot of things by example.
Yeah.
Because you're a human and you suck at a lot of stuff. I can't show patience by example. It's a lesson that I have to actively do. Not very many parenting things come intuitively to me. But being a husband comes really intuitive. And so hopefully that's something that my kids will just kind of see and hope to emulate one day, and see the value in that partnership. Because I'm not a good dad. I'm a decent husband. And I'm trying to work on that balance.
Well, I think, the best we can do there is just try to emulate what we want them to see, not in a false way, but I mean, like, to act it out, to be it, even though we're going to fail at it. We actually had a really interesting conversation. How long have we been talking here?
55 minutes.
55. We'll keep this short. We had an interesting conversation with kids the other day about, I don't even remember how we got to it. Maybe we were talking about, we were praying for somebody at their school or something. But we got to talking to them about their home life and how, I know what it was. There was a situation at their school which brought up getting along with your siblings and how much they fight and stuff. And so we turned it to them as in, like, you guys spend this amount of time in any given day, this amount of time arguing about things that don't matter, things that have no bearing on anything.
Yeah.
And you act as if you're some tortured person in relationship to your siblings. Like, they always do this to me, or they never.
They prevent me from achieving my short-term happiness.
There's a lot of that stuff. And so we turned this other situation that had nothing to do with us that they were bringing up as these people need prayer. We related it through a long conversation to that, and then it ended up kind of us going, look, we're not perfect, but you guys have no idea how good you have it in this family.
Right.
The fact that you have two parents sitting here with you before bed, having a conversation with you about your feelings and about people and about what is right and what is wrong, most kids don't have that.
Yeah.
And it was weird because we were kind of not trying to toot our own horns, but like you have no idea. Like, having a family that you can sit down with means a lot. And a lot of kids that you go to school with never will have it. And so we're trying to impress on them, like, we're not going to do it perfectly. Jenny and I are not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect to your siblings.
Yeah.
But good grief, you have siblings that you can talk to, that you haven't lost or that haven't left the house, or that, we're just trying to point out these things that they take for granted as good opportunities for relationship that are not going to be perfect, but they're there and you can enjoy them. And, like, we're going to try to do our best to continue to be good for each other and for, as good parents to you. But I'm a little bit worried that my kids are way too privileged for what they realize in all ways.
Yeah.
I worry about that we have too much that they just ignore and take for granted all the stuff that we have, which I can honestly say could all burn and I would be fine. I understand that it has no value. I understand that it is all icing on top of things that we don't need.
Right.
But they grew up with it. Not that I didn't grow up with nice stuff. I don't mean that, but, like, I'm mature enough to realize that it's not important. I worry about that, and then I worry about them just assuming that everybody around them has like a solid family and has a caring set of parents and has enough food and has, all of the stuff that, they see kids at school and they know a very shallow amount about their lives because they only see that part.
Right.
And
they only see them in a school context.
Yeah. And so I worry that they just push assumptions on the kids at school, assuming that their lives are like our kids' lives.
Yeah.
Which is not fair and probably not good. So, I don't know. I didn't really have a point to that, but it was related in that I wanted to make sure that we took a minute to tell them, like, you have no idea how good of a situation you're growing up in, and be grateful, be aware of it, I guess. And
they're only going to learn that lesson from experience in an environment that is foreign to them.
Right. And
it's when they can be exposed to that experience. I remember when I was in elementary school, there was a kid in my class who was going to sound bad. It was like one of the poor kids. He lived in like the gross part of town. And I don't remember what happened. It was weird. We weren't like really friends. We were classmates. Like we had a bunch of class together. But for some reason, I spent the night at his house. Like we weren't particularly great buddies. And it wasn't like, oh, you're going to come to my house and like play Nintendo. You didn't have a Nintendo. But for some reason, I was spent the night at his house. And I remember his parents fought openly in front of him and like his older brother. Oh. And I remember being super uncomfortable. And then they just didn't eat dinner that night. Like we walked to like it was like 4 or 5 of us. I was just like a tag along with him. Like we walked to the gas station and they got to like pick out some candy. And like, that's what we had for dinner.
Wow.
And like it could be just like a thing. I don't know if it was like a special circumstance, but I was like, I'm really hungry. And it was never talked about that they would sit down and have dinner. And I remember like even in the evening, like he had to share a room. And so I was sleeping on the couch, which was fine. I mean, he was a kid. But the whole night I could hear their parents like yelling at each other. And I didn't sleep the entire night because I was so uncomfortable and so like kind of scared. And I remember it gave me like such a different perspective on that kid. Because not like people were not mean to him because he was less fortunate. And I was the son of an enlisted airman. So like we were not rolling in dough by any means. Right. But I was secured. We ate dinner as a family. Things that we just did that were norms that you just assume other people do, just like you're saying with your kids. Yeah. And I remember that experience. I'm like, I live a very different life than people. And going over to other people's house, like you have friends that like, maybe this was you, had all the coolest toys and had the biggest play sets and the biggest whatevers. And you're like, oh man, I wish I had that thing. Oh, yeah. And so to them, I might have been the poor kid who was slumming to having to share a room with my older brother or whatever. But then you see somebody else who's in a different socioeconomic status or just like a different just family situation than you are. Yep. And I didn't immediately like go home and hug my parents like, thank you so much for all the opportunities. Yeah. But that little bit of exposure allowed me to
obviously marked you because you're talking about it now.
Yeah. Yeah. I was able to sympathize with someone because it was no fault of his own. Right. It's just their situation was different than mine. And it made an impact. And I don't remember like telling my parents how like scary or whatever it was. It was like, oh, you're back. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, it was different. I don't know if they knew about that situation, but I was scared. And I remember I was scared for him too. And I was like, I wonder if he just like has to go through this, like listen to his parents scream at each other. Like, I remember thinking like someone is coming over. If people come over to my house, we like have pizza or we go to Blockbuster or you like make a little mini event of the thing to try to like welcome to the house. We want to be a sleepover to be like a special thing. I'm like, this is the opposite of that. And I wonder if this is just the norm and that sucks for him. Yeah. But having that, I know we keep talking about like social consciousness and being able to empathize with people who are different. It took a lot of experience to a lot of different places for me to actually see that the world and people who look like me and people who didn't look like me had completely different life experiences in the same year, exposed to, a majority of the same things. That I've been in a war zone and seen a kid on an iPhone. But at the same time, I can go down the street in my own neighborhood and see somebody who has lived a completely different life than I have. Yeah. And it flabbergasts me. And so when I look at my kids, and it's the same when I was a kid, like you're rarely going to be able to internalize the sage wisdom of your elders. The experience of others hits some type of brick wall in people's young brains.
It's every generation.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably the saddest thing about our species is that we cannot learn from the lessons of others.
Right.
Is that we have this thing that allows us to have such deep individualism that won't happen to me, or I'm going to be different, or you guys were old and stupid, or your abacus was broken and I don't have that anymore. So like, but it's not. Things repeat themselves, and the experiences that you can teach your kids of like all this stuff doesn't mean anything. To them, it's their entire world. And I remember the moment that like I think we had our second child, and I called my dad. I'm like, this is the moment that I get it. And I want to let you know because I feel like you deserve to know this is the moment that all those things that you were telling me and hollering at me and just over and over again repeating. And when you got in my face to try to teach me a hard lesson, I would laugh because your mustache would twitch and I didn't seem like I was listening, and I probably wasn't. This is the moment right now where I get it.
Yeah.
Like that plane has landed. And I hope that one day I'm going to get that. But it was a hard paved road.
Yeah.
I had experienced a lot in life to be able just to get to the easy things that my parents were telling me, let alone trying to empathize with the plights of the world. And that, I think, comes through travel. It comes through experience. It comes through being uncomfortable. That it makes you question where that discomfort comes from. And how is it uncomfortable for me when it's completely normal or happy for someone else?
Right.
Like, where is that
What are the
incongruency?
differences?
And so it's fascinating. And I try to think, not to be like a butthole dad, but like I try to find, I'm thinking of scenarios or things that I can try to put my kids in to try to help them learn that lesson.
Well, okay, so I'm right there with you on that. I was telling my oldest recently, a big, long conversation about other stuff, but one of the things was, at some point, you're going to have a moment where there's going to be an internal change inside your heart and inside your brain about realizing that what you do affects other people. You're not there yet. I can't force it. I don't know what's going to cause it, but
Right.
at some point, you're going to go, oh.
Yep.
And I cannot wait for that day. And I told him, I'm not trying to grow you up. I don't want your life to move faster than it needs to move. And I know this is all going over his head. He doesn't get any of it. I'm not trying to push you into being something that you're not yet. But I cannot wait to see that light go off in you where you realize the world is not about you. Can't wait for that. It's going to be awesome. Because then I think that's when like a person becomes effective to the world around them. Because it's about the rest of the world, not about that person. Like, that's a big shift.
Yeah.
And seeing your kids not get that for a really long time is tiring. And so empathize with your dad and my dad and all of the parents who had to watch us just be total idiots.
Just falter over and over again and go, well, I mean, I'm not going to tell you I told you so, even though I really want to. But like, even in those moments, I have to stop and go, when did I get that?
Yeah.
At what point in my life did I get that?
I don't know when I got it.
I didn't get anything when I was 13.
Yeah.
Nothing. No education. There's a blur in your teens that eventually you just end up as like a junior in high school. Everything before then was just a big muddy mess. And then you're allowed to vote and drive. Like, that logic isn't there. But I remember a lot of things I had to learn through the uncomfortable confrontation with people, where I was called out by someone else who is not my parents. My parents could have called out a certain behavior, and I would have like, yeah, okay, whatever. You're just yelling at me because you're whatever. And then like a stranger or someone else can hit that same point, and you're like, oh, dang.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a little sense. So like conflict breeds a lot of internal, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
realization?
Yeah.
Well, and hopefully conflict in people's lives is the outlier. Hopefully it is the thing that is not normal enough that when it does happen, it initiates that kind of like realization about yourself. I hope. I mean, I know it does for me. Like I hate conflict. I hate having to confront somebody about something or like deal with a problem. And so I think that served me well throughout my life is that I have like an apprehension to it. So I don't jump into conflict. I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm not one of those people.
Hey!
Like I gotta think about it and like, what's the best way to get through this? What's the least abrasive situation that I can create here? Because that's what I want. And so I'm a little bit more patient with, and this is not in regards to my kids. I wish I was this way with my kids. But with other situations, I'm a lot more thoughtful about how can we make this happen as easily as possible, be as least abrasive to the situation as possible. And I wish I had that with my kids. It's something I definitely need to.
It's because you know your kids can't beat you up.
It could be.
Okay.
although they're
I
getting
can still
bigger.
take you,
Yeah.
so I'm going to yell at you. No, that's not my point. But yeah, kids are weird.
Yeah.
And I know both of us right now are going through parent stuff that is not podcast worthy, but it's uncharted territory, even for us. So that realization that we're expecting them to one day magically have, I think the both of us recently have hit a little parenting milestones that have changed our perception of being a parent.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sucks too. So
Yeah.
it's, again, the downfall of our species is we're not able to learn a lesson. And I think the lesson in that is that we are both parents and kids growing on different levels at the same rate.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
And neither will, I think maybe that's the first, I'm saying this out loud because that's the first time I've made that realization.
Yeah.
So I think I can get that point and I'm going to forget it tomorrow. Or I'm going to try to teach my kid and they're going to ignore it. So we're not going to learn from the lesson either way. But it's a good realization to have. It sounds very podcast worthy.
No, you're going to learn from it at different times. That's the point. So I know, to wrap this up, I know we're going kind of long. We get a lot of comments from people about us being open about emotions and about parenting stuff and faith, and I'm really glad to hear that. So I hope that everybody listening enjoys those things. But to pull back the curtain a little bit, there are things in our lives that parenting related that we are not going to talk about this on the show because they are not fair to expose about our families.
Right. It's not that we are embarrassed or we don't want some people to feel like they're like I think a lot of people will reach out to me is they're happy that they're not alone in a lot of things.
Yes.
And this is one of those things that like other people could relate to, but it's kind of none of your business.
Yeah.
Like
I just want to throw that out there so that we try to be as open about things as possible, because I think it's important to expose, how you feel and things you're going through, so that people can feel like they're not alone. But we also are careful about anything that we put on the internet that will affect our kids in the future. Mm-hmm. That's the way I think about it. So a lot of times there's family stuff that it just would not be fair to the kids long term to have it exposed on a podcast, even if their names weren't mentioned or any of that type of stuff. So if you're hearing this and wondering why we're talking about something that we're not talking about, that's why. Is that a good enough explanation?
Sure, but I would encourage people when you do hit those moments in your parenting journey to seek the wise counsel from parents that you appreciate around you.
Yes.
Like, don't try to hold that in. So don't misconstrue that we're taking these and we're just not sharing them.
Just not.
We're not
to the
broadcasting them. So find your group of supported people, because my wife and I have had to call a friend of ours and purposely seek wise counsel in that moment because we did not know what to do. So we talked to the people in our life that would be able to help. Not that the listeners of a podcast are not helpful in their feedback, but we're being protective. Yeah, you said it.
Yeah.
But in your life, go find people that would help.
Yes.
Talk to Megan.
Everybody email Megan at... I'm just kidding. All right. Well, that was... We didn't know where that one was going.
No, we ended up somewhere.
Did it again. All right, cool. Well, where can people find you on the internet?
On Instagram at Josh_MakeStuff.
You can find all of us at I Like to Make Stuff on all the stuff. Huge thanks to our Maker Alliance. Oh, look at that on the screen. I always forget that we have that technology. Big thanks to the Maker Alliance for supporting this show. This is one of the shows that we doesn't have a direct income source. Mm-hmm. And so I like to think that this one is supported by the people of the Maker Alliance. Big thanks to them. There's a couple of different ways you can join that if you want to, but the important thing is that it's an awesome community of people who hang out with each other. Discord's super active. We do a monthly hangout. They get discounts and early viewings and all that stuff too. But they have each other, which is
it is a community that we give benefits to the community, but the real benefit is the community itself.
Yeah, I agree.
We have D&D night tonight.
Man, I'm gonna miss it.
So
Soccer practice.
I'm gonna build some Lego, and then I'm gonna eat some dinner, and then I'm gonna D&D. Like, I'm all smiles. I love my family, but this is one of those times when you need to be better for your whatever.
Yep.
All my kids are like, "Can we go have D&D night with you?" And I'm like, "I love you,
No.
but no, this is a thing that I need to do without having to be a dad.
Yep.
I want to be a Goliath that smashes things with axes. I don't want to be a dad. I love you. Kisses. I'll be back later.
Yep. Cool. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.